everybody? Welcome on into Bubba's Place here. Today is Saturday, October 2nd, 2021. This is the final weekend of the MLB regular season here. So you can see, get all your teams play one more time before wild card starts up here and the playoffs begin. Now, today, guys, I have a beer from Indie Brewworks. It's an Irish Red Ale. I believe they're down in Independence, Kansas, a little small town on the south side near the Oklahoma border. And I haven't tried this yet. And that's kind of my drink of choice today here on Bubba's Place. This is a Sports Buffoon runoff, just so you guys know. We are live on Sports Buffoons every Wednesday at 8 p.m. as long as the PCs can work. But let's take a sip here real quick. Yeah, that's a good Irish Red Ale. Yeah, that's going to be dangerous, but it's going to be pretty solid there. All right, guys, so today, normally I talk about football, talk about maybe college ball coming up here, but today is going to be all about baseball. Baseball is, like I said, it's the final weekend here. Hopefully we get to watch Salvador Perez break the Kansas City Royals record with his 49th home run. Hopefully we get to see that today or tomorrow, as the final day is tomorrow. They are facing the Twins, so props to him, and hopefully he can continue as the MLB home run leader and, just be an awesome season to a poor team. So, but hey, guys, as we look here, there's a lot going on that's gone on in baseball the last, 5 years? And you got teams that aren't really supposed to be there, right? We had the Royals back in 2015, 14 and 15, small markets, win, potentially go to the World Series and then win it as well. Tampa Bay Rays have been always kind of in and out, but they're another small market team that has really blossomed. And right now they are currently first ahead in the American League East, ahead of the Yankees, the Red Sox, and I believe they're the number one seed. Yes, they are the number one seed of the AL division going in. Of course, Houston Astros, I don't know how exactly, you might call them more of a middle tier, less than a small market. But those guys have always been in the mix at least the last, 5-6 years, maybe longer. And then you got the Mariners kind of popping up this year with the currently holding on to the number 2 wild card spot. So kind of interesting to see how things are going out. I mean, on the National League side, the Braves are finally back into this thing. Phillies are looking good. The Brewers, we haven't heard of the Brewers for a while. Looks like they're coming. Right now, I believe they're the 2 seed. Technically, you could say, going into Wild Card Weekend, and that's kind of impressive because that's a market that you don't usually hear playoffs about, unless you're the Bucks lately. So that's kind of nice. And then of course the Giants kind of surprised everybody this year, as they are the number 1 seed, technically the number 1 seed. I call them seeds. I know they're not. It's not technically called that, but they are best team in baseball, plain and simple, and that's ahead of the Dodgers, ahead of the Padres, who all kind of loaded up. So as we kind of look at all this, it makes me think, what is missing with baseball? Why is it one of those things where it's not something you turn on? I mean, we all played it, or sorry, not all of us, but most of us played it when we were young, right? And then if you played rec ball the whole entire time, sure, you may not exactly get the whole concept of exactly what makes this sport fun. This sport is a blast. It's a challenging sport. It's all, 90, what do they call it? 90% mental, 10% physical, right? Because it's all about situational based and how you go into the games, how you go into different situations. I always hear the coaches say, make sure you want the ball. And if you got a chance to actually go play on competitive teams or experience competitive teams in some kind of way or form, you'll kind of understand that whole 90% mental, 10% physical. And there is a thing about this. I mean, think about it real quick here. If we talk about the mental and physical aspects of it, the physical aspects is basically you throwing the ball or blocking the ball or hitting the ball, right? Or pitching the ball, whatever. But where's the mental capacity come in is how do you approach that situation? How do you approach a short hop? How do you approach a screamer down third base and continue to get that confidence to put your body in front of it and take a bruise, take the hit, hit by pitch, right? If you're up to bat, how do you continue to go out there after you see 2 or 3 people beamed in a row, like back in what we experienced back in Little League days? How do you, as a hitter, go up there and say, I'm not going to back out of the box, I'm going to stand in there in case he throws a strike? Or are you going to be one of those guys that are mentally weak, and are you going to stand away from the box and then strike out because you just want every ball because you're afraid it's going to hit you? That's possibilities on the base paths, right? Hey, I gotta watch like these certain moves and make sure everything's right on the pitcher so I can either steal or go back so you don't get picked off. Pitching wise, guys, pitching can be scary at times. I tell you that. Balls can come back at you and they can hurt. I saw a kid on my team one time. He took a ball back right in the forehead, right in the middle of the forehead, knocked him out of the game. And then guess who came in to pitch after him? This guy. This guy had to come in. And it was a mental adjustment for me. I'm like, oh crap, it was a good team we were facing. These guys are good and they're gonna send it back at you. But I couldn't let that affect me. I couldn't let what just happened and what I witnessed while playing shortstop just happen. It was a mental game of, hey, let's get up there and let's play our ball. Let's throw our ball. Let's try to hit the corners. Let's throw these guys off. And I did that. I got up there. I let go and I pitched for 3. I think I ended up 3 or 4 innings after that. And, I thought I pitched pretty well. It's just those kind of mental aspects of how you get in the situations. There's so much analytics going on these days in these teams. Now, Major League, as I speak about that, Major League is working on how to make this more entertaining sport, right? They want to be closer to the NFL. They want to be closer to the NBA level. Right now, soccer, I don't know exactly where soccer ranks. I did not look that up. But that might kick them to 4th of the major sports. Hockey's right there, too. That's pretty entertaining. So Major League feels like it's struggling. It has lost some profits in the past years, and it's a big concern. It's a big concern. What does MLB need to do to become more competitive? Is it all these rule changes they've done the past, 5 years, really? Because between 75 and 2008, they didn't really have any rule changes. They had some stuff, such as, the steroid era for drug tracking or whatever it is. But they didn't really add anything in between 1975 and 2008 until they say, hey, let's do an instant replay of home run calls, fair or foul. But, obviously let's limit to them. So they started that. In 2016, they did the whole safety for the players, right? Slides and potential double plays were required that base runners must make a bona fide attempt to reach and remain on base, was the exact rule. AKA, you got to slide, and you have to slide actually for the base and not try to upcleat somebody or throw them off. So, so you took away the fun aspect of all the 70s and 80s ball, where there, ended up being a bunch of fights. Okay. So then we go, last year in the pandemic year was another one that came into play, right? They had the universal DH rule that they kept this year, which is kind of cool. Hopefully they eventually go to all DH. I think that would be way better than watching a pitcher hit. And then, it's the extra innings rule is interesting. It feels more like this should be implemented maybe in the minor leagues more than it should be the MLB. But basically the California rule, having a guy placed on second each half inning starting in the 10th. The California rule, right? So first guys, or the home team has a chance to still score, but having an extra guy there, yeah, sure, that's kind of fun. Hey, it's different. But a lot of this it's irrelevant, right? Having the time frame now between pitches, or you can't you have to have a pitcher has to have a minimum of 3 at bats before he can be pulled at all, instead of having, the strategic changes of who pitches to who. You can't do that anymore. It's not the same. So, sure, we got a bunch of rule changes, but what does MLB need to do to get this thing rolling? Guys, MLB needs to do just one thing. One thing. Make it more competitive. How do you do that? How do you make the MLB more competitive? Simple. Figure out some kind of salary cap on this thing. How can we get these smaller markets to be more competitive with these larger markets, right? The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, the Angels, I don't say the Padres necessarily, they're in San Diego. The Red Sox. There has to be something we can do. The Cubs, right? Another team. What can the MLB do to get some kind of salary cap figured out so there's more equal within these teams, right? So you got year after year, essentially, you have the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, all looking at a playoff bound, essentially. Every now and then, yeah, sure, they suck, and then they don't, they're nowhere in the talks. But what can we do to make this more even? What can we do to have the Cincinnati Reds make the playoffs a little bit more consistently? What can we do to have the Milwaukee Brewers? All right, they're in the playoffs this year. Why can't we? We need to do something to make this more interesting for that. Miami Marlins, guys, one of the worst teams out there. What can we do? Baltimore Orioles, something in that range, right? What can we do with the salary cap to make it more even here? If you look at it this year, the only reason I bring up the salary cap, I mean, look at these names, like the Dodgers right now. The rotation. Clayton Kershaw, all-star, amazing, talented. Max Scherzer, one of the best that has been in the last 5 years, right? He's been nonstop. He's a solid arm. Can't really beat him. David Price, another solid guy. Yeah, he's a little up in the age, but that's still, an all-star guy kind of guy. They traded for Danny Duffy this year for the Royals, who's been nothing but a consistent starter. I keep going down the list here, guys. Albert Pujols, who signed there after he got released by the Angels, right? Okay. Trey Turner, Mookie Betts, Justin Turner, Corey Seager. Who else we got here? I mean, there has Cody Bellinger, right? I mean, these guys, that's a lot of big names on one team, a.k.a. why I think they're the favorite, honestly, to win again going in. You look at the Mets, guys. Even the Mets went out and spent money. And it's been, since 15, since they actually wanted to spend any money on some of these guys? But Carlos Carrasco, right? They got Jason DeGrom there. They got Carlos Carrasco, Noah Syndergaard still there, which is crazy to me. Pete Alonso, Javier Baez from the Cubs, guys. They ended up being able to check for him. Francisco Lindor got a big contract this year from it. I mean, I know they're still paying a bunch on other contracts. Like, that's just insane. If you look at the Yankees as well, guys, Garrett Cole, Corey Kluber, like, you might as well just line them up here. Arnold Chapman, who isn't having a greatest year, but he's still pretty effective. Luis Severino, Gary Sanchez, Rizzo, like Gallo. They traded for Gallo on top of, they already have Giannis, Carlos Stanton, Aaron Judge. That's ridiculous. Three of the biggest home run guys out there in the league right now. And that's all in the Yankees. And then we switch around. Tampa Bay has been winning. And like I said, they are, I believe, first overall in the AL right now. Drew Rasmussen is on their rotation. Luis Pantino. You kind of go through the relievers here. David Robinson, Chris Mazza. I mean, there's not a lot of big names here. Brandon Lowe, second base, right? Not Wander Frank. Austin Meadows, which I was looking for. Brett Phillips, who came from KC, had a wide opening year. And you kind of get that. They got Nelson Cruz as well from the Twins this year on a trade. It's amazing to me, the big names between these big markets and small teams. I just think it needs to be more spread out. I think the MLB, in order to be more exciting, similar to the NFL, similar to an NBA, granted NBA is just full of super teams right now, but I'll get into that in a different time. The MLB needs to spread this competitiveness around, right? I know there's more teams to work with because they all got minor league teams. I'm just saying for the majors in a whole, you got to have some kind of salary cap. You got to be able to see. I want to see more of this Marlins action. I don't want to see the Marlins go once every 20 years. I don't want to see the Royals once every 50 years. The Twins, we haven't seen the Twins there forever. We have barely seen the Indians. They had three good years, and that's about it. Granted, they're 11 games back in the wild card, so they're out. It's I want to see more. We need to see more variant, right? You got all these fan bases, 30 teams, fan bases, and what what you see in a decade, maybe 10 of them make it on a consistent basis to the playoffs. You know how you sell tickets, you know how you gain interest, you win. You have teams that win. And those fan bases, that's when they hop on the most. The Royals, when they were winning back in, hell, you say 13, 14, 15, even 16, a year or two after that, 16, 17, you still had tons of sellouts at the stadiums. You had record-breaking, record-breaking broadcasts going on. It's amazing what happens when it wins. It's just the same thing in the NFL, right? The Bengals are 3-1, and they're going to have pretty much a full stadium, and they're always a disappointment, right? The Broncos, who have been disappointment the last few years, they're going to have a great team. The Jets, well, they suck, so they don't matter. But it's the same thing, guys. Like, in order to have more excitement, the MLB needs to allow teams to win. And you can't allow teams to win if you have teams like the Dodgers or the Cubs or the Yankees or the Mets or the Red Sox that just gallop all this free agent talent. Or even the Padres. You can say the Padres in that sense. Gather up all this free agent talent and can put together essentially a super team every year. Every year. And you see the Yankees, they always blow their payroll, right? They go out and get big name guys every year, even though they don't need them. They go out and get them. And they're taking advantage of what's going on, but they got to do better. MLB has to be better about this competitiveness, or they're going to be in the tank a lot quicker than they anticipate to. And they keep going down every year because it's not competitive anymore, guys. Sure, you're going to see the Tampa Bay Rays this year. Great, fabulous, wonderful. How long is it going to take before we see a Baltimore Orioles team that's good again? How long is it going to take before we see a Kansas City Royals, Minnesota Twins team that's good again? The Texas Rangers, the LA Angels, who awfully ran, by the way. I think they're the Jets of the league. But, like, those guys, how long until you see those teams come up? How long until we see the Marlins? How long until we see the Nationals come back into play? And they just finished pretty much dead last in their division again, but next to the Marlins. It's amazing. There's no diversity on the squad. You know exactly at least over half of the teams that are going to be there in the end of the year, into the playoffs, if not more, every year. All because it's not competitive enough. It's not competitive enough because the numbers, the money is way disproportional across the league, right? You're going to get big signings because of where you're at, but don't make it because this guy can't afford you. Let's just say, right, not Arizona Diamondback. Let's say Pittsburgh Pirate offered more money than a Yankees. That's fine, but the Yankees are going to outbid them all day. The Dodgers are going to outbid them all day if they want them, right? So MLB, you need to figure out some kind of salary cap deal to avoid some of these super teams. You can still have super teams. Make it competitive though, right? Make it competitive, similar to an NBA, similar to a NFL style, somewhere in that mix. And I know it's a little harder with the MLB teams because they do got so many guys on the roster. They got also all those minor league teams going on top of their taxi team, on top of everything else going on. It's a little bit more difficult, yes, but they got to figure this out. If they can figure this out, none of the rule changes matter, right? None of the rule changes matter. Are you going to be watching come October 2nd, the final week, when there's possibly 3 or 4 different potential wildcard teams walking in instead of what? I think there's 2 still going around right now. I think everybody's pretty much done except the AL. So, yeah, you got Boston and Seattle, right? That's pretty much sold up. And then St. Louis, NL is already kind of figured out. So, essentially, you got 1 spot left. You're not really going to watch the final weekend unless it's your team. So, MLB, Figure it out. I don't know what you need to do. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm just telling you what should happen, and I'll let you guys all figure it out. But let me know what you think the MLB needs to do on top of this. Do you agree with me? Do you think they do need to have some kind of salary cap enabled where they can be more competitive? Or is there something different that maybe I'm missing on my side? Let me know. Comment below or send me a tweet as well up on Twitter. We are at Sports Buffoons. But yeah, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. It's just something I kind of thought about all week as I was getting hit with allergies, as probably most of us are feeling as well. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to finish drinking my beer from Independence, Missouri, from Indy Brew Works again. Solid beer, really tasty. I'd recommend it if you go through Independence or around that area. So cheers, guys. Everybody have a great rest of the day. Thank you.